So, you are now done writing emails. You sent in your last email. But just because the emails are behind us, we don't want to lose sight of some of those questions. For instance, the second question in the textbook is, how does the film establish its universe? Everybody remembers that question? What you do at the start of a movie is this: you set up your universe. The audience needs to know what world it's entering. You have to establish very clearly, right from the beginning, what species of picture it is and what behavior is expected from the onlooker. Last week, the Emperor's Club used the opening credits to establish first the world of the university and then the world of the classroom. The second to last question is, does the film end effectively? We've certainly gone over that. Perhaps we should also ask, does the film begin effectively? If every element in your story should lead up to the climax, then obviously that begins with the opening of your film. In The Visitor, a tremendous amount of information is given to us in the opening scene. So we're going to look at the opening scene. Then I'm going to stop the film and ask you some questions. How do the various components in the mix play into this opening scene? I'll tell you right now that the very first shot in The Visitor runs 67 seconds. That's a long shot. You know, why does it run so? It's the longest opening shot of any movie that we're looking at all semester long. Why? Why would it run so long? Production design. What does this home where the film opens tell us about our protagonist, Walter? Music. When does the music start? When does it stop? Why does it stop? Screenplay. In the first 3 minutes, this opening scene is about 3 minutes. I think 2 minutes, 57 seconds. You're going to hear what I believe to be one of the two most important setup lines in the film. Few of you have seen the film, but those of you who haven't, see if you can take a shot at what this setup line might be. So there's a tremendous amount to absorb in an opening scene. I think I've said that before. If you don't pay attention at the opening, you can get, in a lot of movies today, you can get left behind. This is an example. This is a lot to learn here in the opening scene. So here we go.
Surveyor.
Yes.
I'm Dr. Watson.
Yes, come in.
Thank you.
May I take your coat?
No, thank you.
Would you like something to drink?
No. Shall we get started?
Okay.
Let's try it again.
The same thing?
Yes. And remember, fingers curved like a towel.
Okay.
Don't flatten. It's something I tell my kids. If the fingers are curved like this, then there's room for the train to pass through the tunnel.
Thank you. Next Tuesday then, same time?
No. I don't think I'm going to continue with our lessons.
No. You're giving up?
No.
Oh. Okay. Well, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Mr. Dale, may I ask, how many teachers have you had before me?
4.
Well, for what it's worth, learning an instrument your age is difficult, especially if you don't possess a natural gift for it. I'm not saying this to be mean, but if you do decide to give up, I'd really like to buy your piano.
Okay.
Okay, production design. What does Walter's house tell us about him? What do we learn about Walter, even in the opening shot? I didn't hear, who said it?
Said he was alone.
Well, he's certainly alone here. We don't know from the opening shot that he lives alone, but he might. I mean, there's a sense that he's alone. He's certainly alone at this moment. And in fact, we will learn that he does live alone, so it's probably a safe guess. What else do we learn about how he lives, Tom?
It's very white and pretty bland.
What was the word before bland?
It was really white.
White?
It was white.
Well, certainly by the time you get to the door, it's a white door, the windows are, there's a very bland there. Also, something else, but yeah, okay. I wouldn't say that the house itself, some of what we saw was bland. It looked kind of upper middle class to me. But anyway, Adam, what are you going to say?
Yeah, I was about to say upper middle class. He's got a lot of space to him because, like, the opening shot of the 2 chairs, and it seemed like he's
The opening shot of the 2 chairs. Let's not run past that. Tell me about the opening shot of the 2 chairs.
Well, actually, I'll tell you, I don't know the significance of it.
Well, let's think about what might be the significance of the opening shot of the 2 chairs.
I thought it made him seem very lonely because it's 2 empty chairs. He's obviously expecting somebody, so it's like he's really wanting companionship.
Okay, really wanting companionship. That certainly can be read into this. I mean, what's he got in his hand? Glass of wine. Most people, I mean, I'm generalizing here, but most people don't drink in the middle of the afternoon when they're alone. And if they do, what does that tell us about them? Okay, yeah.
Also, since like I noticed like his house was so very like neat and tidy, it's almost like he's expecting someone, expecting to present to somebody. He's waiting for someone to enter his life. Instead of letting him be, like dressed, kind of improperly. And
but we're getting away from the components of the mix. I said production design. What is the production design? What does the look of this house tell us about him?
Yeah, that's like the house. With very neat instructions, so orderly. So they made it look like he's a person who's again lonely but expecting to. He's like has anticipation to want to be with somebody.
When we start it again, I want you to look at how the frame, when you tell your story through the camera, what is the shot? The shot is, we're looking at him at his back, okay? He's looking out the window, but how is he framed?
I see it.
He's between parallels, 2 things on each side of them.
There are 2 chairs. He's framed between the chairs. Total symmetry. He seemed very orderly. By the time we get to the window, to the front door, again, very orderly, everything in its place. And this is not a messy house. This is a man who lives a very orderly life. And I think the production design is telling us that. Well,
Like, also what you're saying, like, also the shot too is, it was shot between, like, just below his waist and just above his head, not to focus on his actual facial emotion.
that's exactly right.
Basically.
The first thing he does when he turns around is that the camera cuts his head off. How often do we see a protagonist in a movie where they're establishing the protagonist and the first thing they do is cut his head off? It's only that long, but they didn't have to cut his head off. They could have moved the camera, they could have stayed with him. They don't. They cut his head off. That is not without significance. Music. When does the music start? The very beginning. The very beginning the music starts. When does it stop? When the doorbell rings. When there's going to be somebody coming into the house, the music stops. What was the music? What was the instrumentation? Piano. Okay. Why does it stop? Well, you wouldn't know that, I don't think, because very few of you have seen the film so far. But one of the things you're going to learn is that Walter is a widower. His wife has died. She was a classical pianist, the wife. So the piano music that we hear would seem to be, to me anyway, the memory of his wife reverberating, in his head. And the very act of taking piano lessons would seem to me to be a way of staying in touch with his